And do I have room to move?
Yes, you can move and I can move around.
Perfect.
Okay.
Very good. Okay. Yeah, my name is Steve Maly. The company I own is Maly Marketing. There's really three things I kind of want to talk about. One is my story, being an entrepreneur and starting off in my own business. The other side of it is marketing as a whole. And I'm not going to get into the details, the finite stuff, but kind of give you a broad overview of marketing, where it's going, and some tips and tricks to help you along the way. But then also, if you are a business owner, is what I need from you to know how to market your business and be successful on that. Then I'll also take a look at examples and people we've worked with and things like that throughout. First off, is that my whole family is a bunch of entrepreneurs. Is that out of the 10 people in my family, 9 of them are entrepreneurs. The one that's not is my mom, and she works for the state of Nebraska, which is as different from owning your own business as basically possible. But with that, as we grow up in it, we grew up just around entrepreneurs, and I literally knew no different whatsoever. I remember being a junior in high school, and I'm talking with Haley Anderson, who was in the business class with me, and we had some time at the end. And I'm like, Haley, what do you want to do when we graduate? She's like, well, I want to go to some college. And I wanted to get a degree in something and go to work for a Fortune 500 company. I want to be somebody's assistant in this Fortune 500 company. And literally, I was 16 years old at that time. That was the very first time I ever realized not everybody wanted to own their own business. I just assumed that everybody did. It's my whole idea in my mind. It's like, oh, I can do this, and I can do this, and I can do this. So at the beginning, the very first business I ever had, it lasted about a week, is that we'd go up to our neighbors and we would pull weeds for them. We pulled weeds with me and my cousin, and it would cost $2. And we would pull all the weeds in their garden for $2. One thing that I learned from that is we asked for the first dollar up front, so that way we knew that they were committed enough to us, and the second thing we'd ask for the second dollar was all said and done. We thought we were rich, because heck, I was probably 3rd grade, something like that. I was making big money, probably $6 at the time. The second thing we did was, and this is actually a picture of my daughter now, that I was in 5th or 6th grade, and a good friend of mine at that time, for whatever reason, that we decided to get into a business, and it was a daycare business. And so his parents' house had a huge upstairs that was just vacant. And so we're like, hey, we can have a bunch of kids up here, we can get paid. I think it was one of those things, my mom was complaining about how much it cost for daycare. And in our mind, like, oh my God, we hit on a gold mine. So we made up flyers, we put flyers up at the grocery store in Fremont. And so my mom started getting phone calls on the landline. And so she's getting phone calls, and she's like, no, we don't have a babysitting service, I don't know what this is all about. And so my mom actually put the kibosh on that business before it fully ever took off, which was kind of a shame. But we still tried, and we still had fun about it. We still joke about it kind of to this day. Just to think about how much times have changed is that here, I have one daughter, this is my daughter, she's 19 months, I have another daughter that's 13 years old. When she was 11, she's at my in-laws' house, and she picked up their phone. She picked up the phone and set it down, and picked up their phone and set it back down. And she's like, Dad, I think something's wrong with this phone. I'm like, why is that? She's like, well, there was noise when I pick it up. That literally was the first time she ever experienced a landline. She wasn't even sure exactly what that was. She thought it was broke, but times have changed. So we want to take a look at my education. Like I said, I'm from Fremont, graduated from Fremont High School, and then came up here to the university. I had numerous classes in here. One of the worst ones was a finance class, and I loved the finance side of it, but it was like pulling teeth kind of going through this. The very first class, or the very first test that we took, the class average was like a 47 or 48%. And he scaled it up. I think I was right on that average, if I remember right. He scaled it up, and my grade then was an 80%. It's like, I think we're missing something here. But came to the university and graduated with a degree in marketing back in December of 2003, which I guess is crazy to think it's been almost 10 years ago at this point in time since I graduated. It's one of those things that I like Lincoln. I like Lincoln a lot, and so I decided to just kind of start and live here for a while. How it started off, in college, I worked for a company called GIS Workshop. What they do is that if you want to find out how much Bo Pelini's house is worth and exactly where it's located at, is that through their system you can type in Pelini, hit search, it'll pull up all the homes that he owns or land that he owns here in Lancaster County. That software is GIS. And so the company I was working for was GIS Workshop. The cool thing is I was a student and I worked for them for about 3 years, and my boss was just a very open, friendly guy. And so I'm getting ready to graduate. He made me a job offer. Nothing I was really too thrilled about. Looked around at some other jobs. Nothing I was really too thrilled about. And it's my whole life plan. What I thought was I'm going to go work for an ad agency for 6, 7, 8, 9 years, quit that, then launch my own company. Well, like I said, I didn't want to dive into something I just wasn't that passionate about. Well, at this point in time, I was doing some videos. I was doing some wedding videos, graduation videos, some online videos, and things like that. And so I went up to Marcus, the boss at GS Workshop, and I'm like, look, I'm not going to do it full time with you. I'm thinking about doing kind of my own thing. He's like, look, if you want to do your own thing, you can definitely do your own thing. I'm here to support you. With his company, it's a software-based company, so he's like, I don't care if you work from midnight until 8 o'clock in the morning, just don't call me at 3 o'clock in the morning if I need some issues. But he's extremely flexible on that. He even sat down with me, it was about once a month, and he opened up his books. He's like, hey, I think I got paid $10 an hour. And he's like, I'm billing you out at $85 an hour, or $95 an hour. He's like, I'm not making that $85 gap in between, that's not all profit. We have overhead, we have this expense, we have taxes, and yada, yada, yada. And so he went through the numbers with me. He went through some principles, his business principles I still kind of follow to this day, and how it all kind of breaks down. And looking back on it, it's an absolute godsend for him to spend that much time with me. My Freedom Day was June 17th of 2004. So what I mean by Freedom Day is that was my last day working for somebody. Then I started the company, really I graduated December of 03, January of 04 is when I formed the company. And within 6 months I was able to bring in enough revenue to quit. The nice thing is, being a poor college student, I mean the most I ever made was $12,000 a year. And so my expenses at the point in time, I had to bring in $1,500 a month to make ends meet. And I wish my expenses at this point was $1,500 a month, but I didn't need much. And so I borrowed $1,500 from my mom to make sure the first month was done, and then from there we just kind of took off. The company was Dream Share Productions. Did a lot of wedding videos, corporate videos, online videos, things along those lines, and loved it for a while. And then eventually, especially on the wedding side, that's a lot of weekends, that's a lot of just traveling, things like that. I ended up not liking it or enjoying it nearly as much. But during this whole process is that I would get deeper and deeper and deeper in marketing with companies. And we take a look at websites, we take a look at that time a lot of print stuff, we look at logos and branding and things along those lines. When I was in Dreamshare Productions and operating as Dreamshare Productions, I met up with a guy here in town, Jason Lemon. He went to Northeast High School, graduated from there. He's literally lived within a 1 mile square radius of where he grew up at. So he's been in Northeast Lincoln forever. So we started talking. And so at this time, I had my real estate license. It was just a part-time thing. I was still doing my Dreamshare Productions full-time. And I'm like, I can help people buy and sell homes every once in a while. So I did that, and he was a mortgage guy at the time. And so we sat down, we had a deal together that we're working on. We're like, there must be a good, solid way to get leads in. We're like, all right, well, I know what we're going to do. Is that you know a bunch of people, Jason, I'm starting to network with a bunch of people. What we're going to do is put together a real estate team. So we're going to have me being the agent, Jason being the broker. We're going to have somebody come in and be the insurance person, somebody else come in to be the home inspector, somebody else on the pest inspection side. Like, we're going to build this team, and with this team, we're going to give referrals back and forth and build business. Well, that lasted about a week. And I remember we're at a lunch, a networking lunch here in town, and we're going through the buffet, and we kind of look at each other. I don't remember who said it, but we kind of look at each other. You know, it doesn't matter where we get leads from. It doesn't matter if a roofer gives us a lead, or a car salesman, or somebody that cleans windows, or whoever it may be, or a chiropractor. Is a lead, is a lead, is a lead, is a lead. I said, why restrict ourselves just to this little niche? So that's how we first formally formed a professional networking group. That we invited people. And I think at the first meeting we had 5 or 6 people. An insurance person. At that time I was representing the marketing side of it. Jason was mortgage. We had a construction guy. And so we're sitting down and we're talking. And it's kind of an informal type of thing. And the next thing we know, the next meeting we had 8 people. The next meeting we had 10. The next meeting we had like 12 or 13. Within 3 months we had 18 people meet with us every other week on a consistent basis, exchanging leads and referrals. And so that took place in, this would have been started in June of 2006, I believe it was. And then by January of 2007, we're like, we are on to something. We have an opportunity here to really take this road and expand it. And so that's when we formally launched the Professional Networking Group. And like Deb was saying, now we have 5 groups spread throughout Lincoln. We do have a social coming up, if the social still counts as an event or not. April 9th, it's on a Tuesday, April 9th from 4:30 to 6:30 at the venue, which is 70th and Pioneers. It's kind of a citywide thing when we're bringing together all of our P&G teammates. We're also opening up to the city as well. So if you're interested in attending that, it's free to get in. We have free appetizers, free food, that type of thing. Feel free to stop by if you'd like to. And it was a little over 4.5 years ago at this point, is when I decided, hey, I need to make a shift. So I made a shift and concentrated solely on marketing. I got out of the video business almost completely at that point in time. And so that's when I formed Maly Marketing. In Maly Marketing, 70% of our business is online based. That's website development, that's social media development, content development, having clients come to us and say, hey, I want to have higher Google rankings. Help me with that. So we help them get higher Google rankings. And we've been rolling with that, like I said, over the last 4.5 years. So marketing a company, here's some things to kind of keep in mind. Is one, first, focus. Focus on exactly what your company is and what you want your company to be. And focus on a niche, if you can. Is if you have a niche and you know exactly who you want to go after, it's much easier to market than if you're just like, hey, you know what, my niche is the city of Lincoln. We had one client, or potential client, we're at a seminar, and she's like, well, I can't really just form a niche. She's a massage therapist. She was a massage therapist in a town of like 800 people, something like that. And she's like, my niche is my entire town. He's like, well, yes and no. I'm like, are you having infants come to you? She's like, well, I can. But I'm like, well, yeah, they can, but do they? No. I'm like, what about senior citizens? No. What about, this and this? She's like, no. And by the end of the conversation, it was a 3-minute conversation, her niche was basically 30 to 45-year-old stay-at-home moms that wanted to be able to escape and kind of get out of that world for a little while. So that's the people that she ended up going after. Now, with that being said, is that she's still got business for people outside of that, but she's able to get to know her buyer that much better, communicate with her buyer, and market to her buyer that much better. We're dealing with a mechanic here in town. A lot of mechanics are like, hey, bring me your car, I'll fix your car. This mechanic does BMWs, Mercedes, and Lexuses. And he'll do work on other cars, but our whole marketing program and campaign is built around those individual owners. And so we've actually built a buyer profile. Is that we know that the average Lexus owner in Lincoln, Nebraska, and if I remember this exactly, it's 48 years old, lives in the south side of Lincoln, makes about $110,000 a year, has a respectable net worth, not as high as Mercedes owners, but not as low as BMW owners. But we get to know them extremely well. The document that we put together for them is that each buyer has about 7 pages of just details about them, so we get to know them. So literally, we grab a photo from the internet, does this person matches up exactly with this buyer profile? So now we have somebody to be held accountable to, but also when we're doing copywriting and marketing, we know exactly who we're going after. So if you have that niche and you know that, it makes everything else so much more efficient. Second thing is research. Is that there's a lot of business owners that will come up and be like, hey, my gut tells me this, my gut tells me that. To be honest with you, I can care less what your gut tells you. I mean, it helps make decisions to a certain extent, but just because, and actually there was a quick pitch that took place 2 years ago, and this idea popped up. He's like, I'm going to do a bar/laundromat. Because when I go to laundromat, I love to drink beer. And so that's what I'm going to do. He's like, well, that's great, but if nobody else loves to do it, it doesn't make any sense to do it. So build the research first. Get to know your audience, get to know your market, get to know if there's a need for you, and then go forth from there. I don't want it to say one of those things that don't trust your gut, because eventually you do. Especially when it comes, like I said, to making decisions and tough decisions and things like that. You need to be able to go off your instincts to a certain extent. But that research should really be the base of everything that you do. The more that you can research about your company, about your audience, about whoever you're trying to go after, the more successful you're going to be. And again, the research answers a bunch of the questions. We, ideally, with a lot of our clients, is we'll spend about a month. And the conversation I had this morning was with a client based out of Omaha. And they want to launch their website June 1. And we're not working on the website for them. But they talked to us this morning like, we have to do this research. We have to do this project with you. Like, well, perfect. We can do it, and it takes a solid month to pull all this type of stuff together. And so then we can start taking this information and applying it online. We might not be able to hit the June 1st deadline, but we're at least getting the ball rolling on the whole side of it. The cool thing is when we do the research, it answers so many of the questions. It answers who to go after, how to go after it, how to communicate to them. I mean, it snowballs, and it's the first thing you definitely got to do. Number 3, educate. If you think about it, there's people you look up to in your life. You look up to them probably because they're a mentor, they're a teacher, they're a coach. They taught you something, maybe it's a parent figure. But again, they taught you something. So keep that in mind when you're going to market to people and communicate to people. A lot of times when people think of marketing and salespeople, they think of that slick car sales guy. Guy that basically tell you absolutely anything, so you drive a car off the lot today that he just sold you. What you need to do is completely flip that around and become a teacher and educate instead. So the more you can educate, the more value you can give back to somebody, the more likely they are to come back to you. So this whole premise, even in the meeting this morning, and what they do in their business is in the senior market. So they do a lot of sales consulting for the senior market. What they do though is they sit down and they teach people, hey, when you become a senior, you start looking for places to live, to retire. Here's your process. Here's the questions you need to get answers. Here's what the market's changing. Here's the direction it's going. All the different market trends and stats and shifts and things like that. Because then you're offering people so much more value than look at me, buy from me, I'm amazing, I'm fantastic, I'm great. And the majority of marketing out there is look at me, I'm amazing, I'm fantastic, I'm the best that's ever been made. In reality, it's really flipped around where it's education. Education-based marketing, by the way, this isn't a study that we did. We pulled the data from elsewhere. They did a multi-million-dollar study. Education-based marketing polls 8 to 10 times better than product or service-based marketing. So it is huge. Because again, it changes that conversation. Changes it away from, hey, I want to sell you something, to, hey, here's the value I'm going to give you. And us as human beings, we are wired to reciprocate. And so the more value somebody gives us, the more likely we'll want to do business with them. Number 4 is be the expert. Now, if you know the audience, you did your research, you're very, very well educated on this whole thing, and you're giving value on the education side of it, it's real easy for you to be perceived as the expert. And I don't care if it's one of those things you go out and do seminars on behalf of kind of your industry, or if you just go and do the networking. However it may be, it's important to present yourself as that expert, because people want to do business with the expert. They want to do business with the people that are some of the best ones around. And there's 2 ways to basically show that you're, or not show, but to advertise you're the best around. One is to say it, which if you say that you're the best around, well, obviously that raises a lot of red flags. The other one is to really kind of prove it by being that expert and give that knowledge away. So the end goal on that is add more value than absolutely anybody else. And if your business could add more value than your competitors and anybody else out there, then you'll do a phenomenal job. If you take a look at Zappos, I don't know if you've talked much about Zappos in the class or not, but on Zappos is when they first started out, they were a shoe company, and all they sold was shoes. Everybody told them it was a stupid idea because you ship shoes online over the internet. People want to sit down in a store, they want to try them on, they want to walk around in it. So what they ended up doing is, I think it was a 1-year policy, if I recall correctly, that if you buy a shoe from them and you don't like it, doesn't fit right, whatever it may be, you had 1 year to return it back to them. They realized the return rate was about the same as the industry average. The industry average was, I think it was a 2-week policy or 1-month policy. The other thing they did, though, too, to add value, is that literally you can call Zappos up at 10 o'clock at night, like, hey, I want to order this product. There's times that they can even upgrade it to overnight delivery, or that next morning you'll have that product at your doorstep. It's something that you don't pay for, something you don't even know it's coming. When they talk about shipping, oh yeah, that'll be to your house in 3 to 5 days, but they'll just automatically upgrade you. And so people love that, people start talking about that, but also they delivered more value than their competitors and everybody else out there. So that helped them really snowball. So let's take a look at marketing as a whole. 87% of buying decisions start online. The study that we got this pulled from, the buying decision was a $200 purchase or more, and I'm pretty sure that price point's being lower, getting lower and lower. This isn't a gumball purchase, this isn't an impulse purchase, but it's something you're kind of thinking about. If you want to go buy a TV, try to find a place to live, an apartment, buy a house, whatever it may be, if you're going to go buy a car, your buying decision process a lot of times is online. You'll take a look, like for example, we just bought some new video equipment for the online videos that we're shooting now. And with that, we looked online, we took a look at the prices online, we took a look at the specs online, we looked at the customer reviews online. So we gathered all this information, and then we logged off and went down to Shavers to actually buy the equipment. But the buying process started online. Same type of thing with me when we go to meet with companies. So if I don't know anything about a company before I go to meet with them, I'm going to their website to find out more information about them. If we have somebody that's trying to apply for a job with us, the very first thing I do is Google their name to see what pops up. If it's Facebook, LinkedIn. Anybody here on MySpace still? Okay. Keep in mind, I did this is probably like 18 months ago, but I just Googled my name to see what's being said, and on page 3 it was still my MySpace account that I guess wasn't deleted. So if it's still out there, double check and make sure it's deleted and wiped away. Take a look, 25 of the 25 largest newspapers saw an ad revenue decline over the past year. The Journal Star 3 years ago went from this wide down to this wide. Their ad rates still skyrocketed. If you look at Journal Star, right now, back in August, is they put up a paywall. Is that if you want to view more than 10 articles per month on their website, is they want to charge you, at one point it was $10 per month. I saw just recently that they're advertising for 99 cents per month. So that tells me at least that it's not going worth crap whatsoever. I'm going to be interested to see what their whole spin on it is. But the newspaper, Journal Star, Lee Enterprises owns the Journal Star. The Journal Star is now trying to get into the website development business. They'll build you a website. So you can see their revenue model is changing quite a bit. There's 10 times as many channels on TV today as there was even 10 years ago. If you want to take a look at TV show Friends, which Friends is still on pretty much every hour if you have enough TV stations, but at its peak, it aired Thursday nights at 7 p.m. on NBC. If your target market was 18 to 35-year-olds, you'd have to run an ad 3 times during the Friends TV show to get 70% penetration rate, because everybody's eyeballs are watching that show. Today, with DVR, with Hulu, with Netflix, with all that type of stuff, if your goal is still to reach 18 to 35-year-olds and to get to that 70% penetration rate, you guys have any idea how many times you got to run that same ad? It's, instead of 3 times, how many times do you guys think? 300? Actually, it's probably one of the better guesses I've had in quite a while. Any other guesses? It's between 120 times and 150 times. A lot of times people are like, oh, 10 times, 12 times, 50 times. No. Between 120 to 150 times you have to run that exact same ad. So again, eyeballs are really all over the place. The average person spends 16 hours per week online. That's between social media, you got Facebook, Pinterest, Twitter, YouTube, blogs, reading articles, checking out websites. I mean, really, when you guys leave here and you're driving away, if you get to a stoplight, just look to your right and look to your left and see how many people are on their phone surfing the web. That's what we're talking about with billboards. Billboards, if you have a decent budget, billboards can work. Billboards are expensive. We have one client that's looking at placing a digital billboard. I guess this was probably 6 months ago now. But the digital billboards was, I think, about $5,000. And so that's just hoping that you have somebody that happens to be driving past it, paying attention to it at the right time, not looking at their phone, seeing what their Twitter update is, and that type of thing. $14 billion were lost in the Yellow Page industry last year. Yellow Pages is kind of like the Journal Star. Yellow Pages used to be this thick, and now it's this thick. Yellow Pages, again, are helping you out with pay-per-click campaigns. They're helping you out with social media campaigns. They're helping you build websites. And so if you look at newspapers and phone book, and you can see they're changing their business model to replicate, to grab the revenue that's currently taking place online, where you need to have at least a solid foundation. So the first thing to take a look at is a website. Have a solid foundation of a website. And this website, again, should not just be, hey, look at me, look at our services, look what we can sell you. Is educate them on the market, educate them about your industry. The more you can educate them, too, the more that you qualify your buyers. Is if people can learn and understand, you know what, I am a good fit for this company, or I am in need of this product or service, or on the flip side, they can learn that they're not. One thing that we tell clients, and some of them understand, some of them don't, is what we don't want to have happen is the phone be picked up all the time. Hey, I got a question about this. Hey, how much do you charge for this? Hey, what about this? We'd rather have them go to the website, learn that stuff, and then if they're qualified enough for them to call you at that point in time. We have some clients who are like, no, we need to call them because we can sell them on the phone. Baloney. Is that you're not, some people will be able to, but 90% of the time you're not going to be able to convert somebody over the phone just because they happen to call you. A lot of times, if you don't have the information that they're looking for on your website, they'll bounce off and go to the next site and go to the competitor that does give them that information. So again, the foundation of what you should have on there is your website. Number 2, social media. And social media obviously has exploded over the last 4 or 5 years. We help clients with a lot of content development, what to write on social media, how to manage social media, what to put out there on social media. And the thing is, you have so many options. You can have blogs, and when I talk about social media, I'm talking about the whole gamut, not just Facebook. But you have blogs and articles and Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, and videos are huge. Videos are some of the biggest pulling things you can have out there right now. It's absolutely phenomenal. But you got to decide what works out best for you. Are you a fantastic writer that's really funny? Go ahead and do some social media posts, or go ahead and do a blog. Are you somebody that's very animated? Go ahead and shoot a video of yourself talking about your product or your service. The videos that we're talking about, and this is kind of depressing. When I started Dream Show Productions, I invested $6,000 into 2 cameras. They were pretty nice high-end cameras at that time. Well, I got the iPhone, I don't know, 4 months ago. This thing shoots better video than those cameras do. The caveat for a while is like, all right, I can walk into a client to shoot these online videos, and either I can come in with this big equipment that looks fancy, looks professional, looks amazing, shoot lower quality video, or come in with a phone which looks like I'm just some kind of too-big company that shoots actually better video than those cameras do. So that's when we end up having to upgrade the video camera system that we had. But keep in mind, what are your strengths? Again, are you a good writer? Post things. Are you very animated? Do some videos. Have a video that's set up like this where you can be holding your iPhone. If you go to YouTube, type in any search term, out of those 20 results, you're talking 15 to 16 of them are simply somewhere like this, or puts a camera on a tripod and just stands in front of it and starts talking. It's not the high-end production stuff they're taking a look at. If you happen to have a face for radio, think about doing some kind of voiceover work. Think about having some kind of video or audio blogs and that type of stuff. But there's all kinds of opportunities. And with our clients, we're much more concerned about them being in a social media platform that fits them and their skills than being in every single social media platform. We have people come up to us, what about Pinterest? What about Google+? What about LinkedIn? What about this? What about this? It all depends what your goals are. It all depends on who you are. And I'd rather have you concentrate in 1 or 2 channels than try to conquer all 5, 6, 7, 20, 50 channels, because that's what you feel you should be. Traditional media. So you get traditional, you get direct mail. Direct mail still pulls. If you do good direct mail pieces, it can still be absolutely phenomenal. We had one client, we did a campaign for her last year, we're doing the campaign again this year. But the results is that we got to know, okay, back up for a second, who she's targeting is banks and hospitals. There are 87 banks in Nebraska, there should be 87 hospitals in Nebraska, and 268 banks. So instead of us going after all basically 500 targets, we selected the best 20 on each side. So we're going after these 20 banks, and we're going after these 20 hospitals. These were the most profitable banks and most profitable hospitals for it. So we have this list. Now we have this targeted list of just 40 individuals. So we took this budget of, say it's this big, and instead of going after a market this big, we went after a market that's this big. So now we can put together some higher end pieces that are in front of these people. The very first direct mail piece that we sent out had a call to action on it to visit her website, a certain page on her website. A third of the people that got that went to that page. We're doing that same campaign right now. We just launched it on Monday. So far, it's 25% of the people that received this piece have gone to that page. So it's been absolutely phenomenal. You fast forward a whole year through 2012, on the banking side of it, she was able to get or close 60% of the targets that we went after. And it was largely through direct mail. On the hospital side, the buying cycle is a lot different. She was able to close 20%, which still 20% is a dang good closure rate. But the premise behind it, they're very nice, personalized pieces, education-based pieces, not just, hey, look at me, I can help you out with all of your audit needs and things like that. It was, hey, here's 5 tips to think about. Here's 6 things to avoid. Hey, do you realize this? So it's things they can take and implement to a certain extent, and then they can hire her to take it to a whole other level. We have, I guess this guy's not a client, it's a guy that I network with quite a bit, and you probably know what I'm talking about, Deb, when I start bringing him up. He's a landscape guy here in town, and he hits all the social things all the time. He's a fun guy, interesting character, but a very fun guy. His whole marketing is based on, I am going to put together brochures, direct mail pieces, flyers, all that type of stuff, on bright yellow paper. Black ink, bright yellow paper. It's just ugly looking. It's hideous. But the genius behind what he does on his brochures is that if you open up the one flap of his trifold brochure, on this flap talks about, hey, these are the 5 things you need to do in the springtime to your yard. Here's the 5 things you need to do in the fall time to your yard. It's not call him to come out to do this. It's, these are things you can do yourself. So he says you'd be surprised how many times he'll walk into somebody's home once he gets their business, and he'll see just that panel of that brochure torn up and up on the fridge. And it's things they can follow. So again, it's that education side of it. It's giving somebody more value than anybody else. He could have walked in and said, hey, I'm the best lawn care guy, landscaper in town. He didn't necessarily do that. He gave them some information they can really use and take. So that being said, I don't recommend putting together some extremely ugly crap and sending it on out. But if it is ugly and if it has high enough value content, people will grab a hold of it and they'll run with it. So some musts we want to take a look at and have. One is know your strengths. We hit on this a little bit with social media, but know what your strengths are and what you're really, really good at. Your weaknesses, either hire somebody else to do it internally or hire a company to take care of your weaknesses for you. One of those things we've done with some clients is when you do campaigns, from sales campaigns especially, it's like, hey, look, we can help you get returns to this level. If you, the client, picks up the phone to do follow-up with it, it can get up to this level. Some people have no qualms picking up that phone and making phone calls to somewhat of a warmed-up lead. Other people are completely scared to do it. So know your strengths. You know, if my strength is not to pick up that phone and make that phone call, I want to bring somebody else in that will be able to pick up that phone and follow up. Because again, your return on investment goes from here up to here. You know, if you're a good copywriter, you're a good designer, maybe you're a fantastic, well, what is the E-Myth Revisited book? They talk about somebody being a fantastic baker inside of that, but not a very good business person, manager. Hire somebody else to do that. But otherwise, you'll be spending so much time on your weaknesses and trying to chug through those weaknesses, where you should be concentrated just on your strengths and ripping through that. Another thing is consistency. Is you need to be consistent in marketing. And consistent in marketing is 2 ways. One is making sure that every piece that you hand out, every piece that you communicate with, has the same look and feel and message behind it. That if I laid it all down on a table, they're like, all right, that's the same company. What happens at times is they'll go someplace to get some direct mail pieces done, they'll go to a printer to do a brochure, they'll They'll go to somebody to do a website, they'll go to somebody else to do a logo. And if I put it all down on a table, you'd have no clue it's the same company outside of that company name that's on it. So make sure it's branded consistently and it has the same look, feel, and message behind it. The other thing with marketing is you got to be in front of people consistently. They say right now you have to have 5 to 7 different touch points in order for people to trust you enough to make a purchase from you. I imagine with all the media that's hitting us and bombarding us every day, that's going to go up a bit. Like right now, 5 to 7 touch points. Maybe it's one of those things they meet you at a networking event. Then they look down on your desk, or on their desk, a couple days later they see your business card. Then they go to your website. Once they're on your website, they experience you a little bit. Then they'll be driving down the street and they'll see your store. So there's 4 different touch points kind of right there. But you got to be in front of them consistently. Same thing with direct mail. And I learned this a hard way, 5, 6 years ago at this point, that a client came to us and like, hey, there's a new bank in town. They were at the time. And they're like, hey, we want you to do a direct mail piece. Here's the message we want you to get across. Here's the incentive. Here's the audience we want you to go after. And here's the general idea and how we want this to look. And so basically at that point in time, we were just a shop that would do a quick little design and ship it on out. All we were an order taker. And so when we shipped that out to the zip code that they determined, with the message that they thought of, with the design and incentive that they thought of, basically that we kind of helped implement, it bombed. It didn't go over very well whatsoever. And that taught me, he's like, you know what, if my name's going to be on the line, because they held me responsible, which is fair, they hired me. And I should have stepped up and like, you know what, this is a terrible idea. Have you thought about, instead of doing zip code drops, targeting individuals, going this route on the incentive instead of this route on the incentive. But they wanted to do a one-time drop, direct mail drop, and they thought they'd get so much business. Well, on the direct mail side of it, you got to be consistent. You got to be in front of them on a regular basis. Same thing if you do an email blast, regular basis. Same thing with if you do an advertisement in the magazine or a newspaper. You can't do it just one time and expect to get so much business you don't know what to do. You have to be consistent inside of that as well. So some projects that we've worked on, kind of hit home and bring all this back together. We'll start with physician advisors, and then we'll end up with podiatrist, which was my favorite clients that we've had. Is a physician advisors, that he is a financial advisor based out of Omaha. Most financial advisors, they don't care if you're a college student, you're 60 years old, you're single, you're married with a huge family. They just want to work with people. If you ask a lot of financial advisors who their market is, Lincoln, eastern part of Nebraska, this 3 zip codes. But with this guy, he works solely with doctors. That his whole practice is built around doctors. And his family, I think he says he has 7 doctors in his family, so he's got to know the profession extremely well. So what he does is that he has, I think, 4 clients in Omaha, and the rest of his clients are all over the U.S. So it's really spread out, but he knows the niche extremely well. So he hired us to kind of develop a core story. So we take a look at the buying process. When doctors are looking at getting into a financial advisor or team up with somebody, what they look for, what do they need, what are their pain points. We looked, all right, doctors from the get-go, when they're in college, one of their biggest pain points in college is to put together a resume. To put together a resume and then be able to ship on out. So the resume is an opportunity. The other one was job interviews. Is to be able to land some decent job interviews and have the good job interview skills to land the gig of $140,000, $200,000 pay that they want to have when they graduate. So there's another opportunity to go after. Then after that, it's, hey, you know what, I've been a poor, broke college student, especially with doctors, working 80 hours, 90 hours a week for nothing until they get their gig. But now they have their gig, they're making $200,000 a year, and they go crazy. I mean, they go buy big houses and big cars and all this type of stuff. So there's another opportunity for him to go after. So what he's been able to do through the research, and we discovered these opportunities, all right, with those doctors that need help putting together a resume, he started kind of a side resume business. He hired a writer, and all the leads come in through her. She'll write some of the copy, and then ship it back off. So now the resume is some of the really top 5% inside of the classes. When it comes to job search, he's teamed up with recruiters. They'll help these doctors go through the job search. He's also helped them out with interview skills. So we'll go through that whole process. So you can see each pain point these doctors have in their career, he has a solution for them. And to be able to really put together a pretty killer campaign, touching on these different points kind of throughout, and it's worked out really well. The other one, podiatrist. We had this crazy client named Lambros. He's from Greece, lived in the French part of Canada, so he had just a crazy accent. But he called us up, and he's like, hey, I have this new product. It's an athlete's foot spray. For those of you that have ever had athlete's foot, generally speaking, you'll get it. You'll go down to Walgreens, buy a $10 tube of athlete's foot cream, put it on your feet, and maybe it'll go away, maybe it won't. But a lot of times when it goes away, it'll come back. It'll come back 6 months later, 9 months later, 3 weeks later, whatever it may be. And what happens if it comes back 6 months later, you've misplaced that $10 tube. So you got to go back down to Walgreens, buy another tube, and the cycle just repeats itself over and over and over again. And so Lambros is like, hey, I developed a spray that cures it 99.3% of the time. 99.3% of the time, if they spray it, in just one bottle, if they spray it, then it cures it. And we're like, well, this is kind of interesting. And he's like, well, there's one catch, though. I'm like, oh, yeah, what's that catch? He's like, my price point, since it's a customized formula, and since they only have to buy it once, it's between $200 to $250 per bottle. And so we're like, well, what the hell? You're charging literally 20 to 25 times more than what your competition is. He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay. We're working with, I was working with copyright on this project, and we were talking about, do we even want to take this on? We're like, you know, it'd be kind of fun. So we implement education-based marketing throughout. We went through social media, online, videos, all kinds of stuff. Well, we talked about, hey, this is what causes athlete's foot. If you like to go boating in the summer, it's a good idea to wear water socks on the boat deck because there's a lot of fungi there. If you work out in the gym and you go take a shower after you're done working out, again, sandals or water socks or something on that floor of the shower because there's a bunch of fungi down there. If you sleep with your socks on, which I guess there's a lot of people that do, which I think is just weird to begin with, but if you sleep with your socks on, it's a bad idea. Take your socks off and let your feet air out. So we talked about how to avoid athlete's foot. Then we talked about, all right, if you have athlete's foot, here's some home remedies. Here's some things you can do on your own to try to get rid of athlete's foot. So we're giving them all kinds of knowledge really in how to avoid buying our product, which is podiaspin. And so he gave us full analytics to everything, his shopping cart, his website, absolutely everything. And his whole thing was online sales. And so the very first month, if you typed podiaspin, and on day number 1, you had 97 search results for podiaspin. Within 30 days, we had over 1,000 search results. And within 60 days, we had over 2,000 search results. Like I said, we have the analytics. We saw, basically it took about 2.5 months for his stuff to start spiking and doing a lot of good business. So Lambros calls us up after 72 days. And Lambros is like, hey, Stevie. I'm like, yeah? He's like, you're fired. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, and with our clients, we've shown the analytics on this. And we've shown the analytics. We've seen your shopping cart. We see that you're making money. We see all this stuff. I mean, what do you mean we're fired? And long story short, a pharmaceutical company found out about him and basically just wanted him to disappear. So they offered him money to merge. Lambros makes his money in the foreign exchange market. And so this wasn't a money thing. This is simply just a mad scientist in the back room putting things together. And he's like, no, I'm not interested in going to work for you for 3, 4, 5 years. And so this pharmaceutical company came back with another offer. Like, all right, if we give you X amount of dollars, will you literally just go away? And he agreed to that. So that's when he called us up to fire us, and our job for the next 30 days was try to pull as much content offline as we possibly could. As you guys know, once you put it online, it's kind of tough to pull back. So we pulled back as much as we can. I haven't Googled it for a while, I should. It'd be interesting to see how much content there is still about podiaspin. Like I said, that was really through education-based marketing, and his campaign was all through just online marketing and being able to get some absolutely phenomenal results off of that. So, I want to take only about 45 minutes. One last final note on here. Thing to harp on, networking. Networking is extremely important inside of your business and inside of your community. People used to say that all the time when I was a student, and it annoyed the hell out of me, to be honest with you. You get out. I've gotten gigs because I happen to know the right person at the right time. And it's really all about what you know, not necessarily, it's all about who you know, not necessarily what you know. We had a gig with the Lincoln Salt Dogs back, I don't know, probably 5, 6 years ago now. I feel like my grandpa sometimes. Just the other day in 1984, 5 or 6 years ago, that we come in, somebody gave us kind of a lead. Hey, you know, you can do this, Steve, right? And it was virtual tours. I'm like, oh, yeah, I can do it. So we go in and talk to the Salt Dogs on a Friday, assuming if they bought what I'm selling, is it was going to take a couple of weeks because they're a big corporation, yada, yada, yada. Well, we're done with that meeting on Friday afternoon. And they're like, all right, Steve, here's the contract, here's the deposit. We want you to come back on Monday to implement what you just said you'd do. So literally, for 48 hours that weekend, I sat at home, researched to figure out how to do exactly what I just signed up to do. It ended up being a great project. And actually, I'm going down to meet up with them tomorrow to look at some different things. And so it's an ongoing relationship. But it's, the moral of the story is, well, A, I actually have the dedication behind to follow up and do the stuff I promised, but it's all through networking. There's just so many opportunities out there because, especially like in communities like Lincoln, it's a big small town. Like Deb was saying, is that if you go out to a networking event, you know somebody that knows somebody. My wife is from Sutherland, Nebraska, which is about 1,000 people, 1,100 people. we run into more people from Sutherland that know my family back or my in-laws back in Sutherland than I even run into that know Fremont and some other people there. So it's just a huge, small world. We were in Vegas 2 years ago, and we're waiting for the elevators to go back to the airport. And the guy walks up, and I'm wearing a Nebraska shirt, and he's like, "Hey, you from Nebraska?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, so am I." I'm like, "Really?" Like, who are you? He's like, "Well, I'm from Fremont." Well, so am I. And he's like, "Well, my name is whatever Shemelka." I'm like, "Well, I graduated with your brother." So again, it's just a small world. We're down in Mexico back in January. We're playing pickup volleyball in Mexico, and on that volleyball court there was 10 people. 8 of the people were from Nebraska, 2 were from Iowa. So, and we beat the Iowans, so that was good. But again, it's a small world, and networking is extremely, extremely important. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, as you're going through your programs, as you're kind of going through some of the work that you got, if you have any questions, feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. Like I said, we do have an event coming up April 9th from 4:30 to 6:30 at the venue. You said we have the Pioneers, and we're welcome to come out and check that out as well. But with that being said, does anybody have any questions? How about it?
I was curious, you talked about die spin and how after they fired you, you had to pull stuff back off. Why exactly did you not just drop it and forget about it? Just like let everything go?
Because they wanted him. They basically the agreement for that pharmaceutical company was for him to go away. So we tried to pull it back off. So that way it appearedly kind of went away. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was some sort of reason like you didn't want people seeing the market and you did.
No, it was that was the pharmaceutical company that said, "Hey, try to disappear as much as you can." So things we controlled, we're able to pull back, but obviously there's a lot. Once it gets out there, we can control. Go ahead.
So you had a mentor study down at GIS.
Yeah.
And you walked through the books. What were some of the rules of thumb that you said you still follow?
We have like a 40-30-30 rule. Is that 30% of the money that comes in set aside for taxes? If that's sales tax, if that's employee tax, if that's business tax, whatever. Another 30% should really be going to your overhead when it takes place. And then about 40% of it should be profit, or what we're trying to hit for profit, our margins, that type of thing. So there's one of them. The other thing that I really learned, and he talked about it a bit back then especially, was culture. Is you don't necessarily have to pay people the premium amount of dollars for them to stick and stay with your company. It's more about culture and flexibility. With his company, is that you had no vacation time, you had no sick time, you took off as much time as you needed to, but you needed to make sure you got stuff done. But you'd have people being in there, like we have programmers. Some programmers want to sleep until 10:30. They roll in the office at 10:30, but they want to leave until 8:30 at night, 9 o'clock. But they would get their stuff done. So it was really kind of a cool culture. And I've been an associate with other companies seeing just that culture. If that's a great culture, people really want to be there, they love what they're doing. The money is secondary. They kind of take it off the plate. From a business owner standpoint, one of the best books that I have ever read was Daniel Pink's Drive. And it talks about what truly motivates employees, and it's phenomenal read. Phenomenal read. What other questions, guys?
Now we tell them to do research for their company. Do you have websites that you think they should go to learn more about their customer, or learn more?
Yeah.
What do you suggest they go to?
Actually, one of the things I miss being a student is LexisNexis. You guys have free access to the library system to get into LexisNexis, which is a huge database of articles and magazines, and newspapers, and all kinds of stuff that all come together. And it's obviously just like a Google search. You type in a couple of keywords, and all these current articles pop up. So we still use that to this day, and it was phenomenal back when I was in college. Another thing for ongoing research, and just stay updated on what's taking place, it's smartbrief.com, smartbrief.com. And what you do, there's about 20 different industries. It could be auto industry, healthcare industry, IT, marketing, social media, whatever. But you can sign up underneath different industries, and they'll send you a newsletter pertaining to that industry. So it's the top 8 to 10 headlines inside of that industry every single day. So we subscribe to 5 different ones, and so every day in our inbox, that's where we kind of keep updated and the changes taking place, especially with social media. Social media is always changing. But some of the other things, hey, here's some marketing tips, here's some sales tips, here's some business ownership tips. That's where we stay current with our stuff. What other questions?
Very easy, don't you
Perfect.
think?
That was painless.
All right.
Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.